It is Black Monday in the NFL, and multiple coaches have already been fired. What's up, guys? Swift here. Today I wanted to talk about Luke Getsy and Ian Cunningham. Let's go ahead and get right into it. I believe the Bears' offensive coordinator has failed us. Luke Getsy has got to go. It would be a bit of poetic justice if Getsy's last play call as the Bears' offensive coordinator was on that screen pass on 3rd and 22 that went nowhere. Yesterday's loss was not fun to watch. Losing 10 straight to our rivals is tough to stomach. Watching through yesterday's tape is not fun either. What happened to our offensive line? Nate Davis has completely fallen off. So is Cody Whitehair. Braxton Jones looked like he took a step back. Even Tevin Jenkins, our best offensive lineman, had his worst game of the season. But the worst thing I saw was Luke Getsy ask Trent Taylor to block Rashawn Gary one-on-one. That has to be one of the most puzzling decisions I've ever seen. Rashawn Gary, the Packers' best defensive lineman, an all-pro pass rusher. He is 6'5", 277 pounds. He's an athletic freak and a beast of a pass rusher. Luke Getsy called a play where he has Trent Taylor block Gary one-on-one. Trent Taylor, that's our 5'8", 178-pound punt returner, the smallest player on our entire offense, and he's asked to block an all-pro pass rusher who has over 100 pounds on him. Of course he gets blown up and Fields gets sacked instantly. That's just one play, but it shows the level of ineptitude that we're dealing with in Luke Getsy after 2 years as a play caller. Can you imagine being 5'8", 177 pounds, and asked to block a guy that's 6'5", 280? Where was Mercedes Lewis or Equinemius St. Brown? Or heaven forbid, we have one of our offensive linemen actually block the Packers' best pass rusher. Luke Getsy would save his best for last, though, when he went deep into his bag for the final play of the game when he called a screen pass that of course didn't work on 3rd and 20. After the play, DJ Moore was seen verbally confronting Getsy on the sideline after the play. It's the last game of the season. Nothing to lose here. Coaching potentially for your job and trying to knock the Green Bay Packers out of the playoffs. And what does Luke Getsy call? The biggest play of the year, and he calls yet another screen pass. It's just so disappointing. But another note here about Luke Getsy, the wide receivers who torched our secondary last night, Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks, were both down at the Senior Bowl with Getsy this year. Luke Getsy coached Dontavian Wicks, and we had a chance to draft him in the 4th round, but went with Tyler Scott, possibly due to Luke Getsy's recommendation. I don't know that for sure, but I like Dontavian Wicks better. I talked a lot about him at the Senior Bowl when I covered it last year, and then to watch him get picked after we take Tyler Scott, and then he comes back and torches us for 2 touchdowns in the most important game of the season. By the way, 2 touchdowns is more than our entire wide receiver room scored if you don't count DJ Moore. Tyler Scott didn't get 1. But Dontavian Wicks was able to light us up for 2 TDs and put the Packers in the playoffs. I know we were all frustrated after yesterday's loss, and maybe I'm taking that out on Getsy, but I do not expect him to retain his job at this point. He's been over his head as a play caller. He can't develop players or identify them when he has a chance to coach them firsthand. I think at this point, I've just pretty much lost all faith in Getsy as our offensive coordinator. Whether or not we change quarterbacks, I think finding a better play caller should be a top priority heading into this offseason. And then looking around the NFL, other coaches are already being fired. Arthur Smith is out in Atlanta, Ron Rivera was fired by the Commanders, and the Panthers have cleaned house as well. The GM who traded with Poles for the #1 pick no longer has a job just 8 months later. If that doesn't tell you how bad Poles fleeced them, I don't know what will. And then in other news, I said last night that I expect Ian Cunningham to potentially land a GM job with the Commanders or the Chargers. And already today, here we go. The Washington Commanders have just requested to interview Ian Cunningham for their vacant GM job just hours after moving on from the current staff. He is going to be a hot name in the NFL. Ian is a top GM candidate, and I fully expect him to land one of these jobs. I think he's a favorite to go to the Commanders. Imagine if he went there. The Commanders do have the number 2 pick. Him and Poles could work out a trade. The Commanders also have extra picks in the mid-rounds from trading Montez Sweat and Chase Young last year. So I definitely would not mind Ian Cunningham landing that job. Also, if Cunningham gets a GM job, it would land us an extra 3rd round pick this year and an extra 3rd round pick next year in 2025 as well. And I fully expect that to happen. Ian Cunningham is one of the smartest young minds in football. I would love to keep him for one more year to work with Poles, but I do not expect him to turn down more GM jobs this offseason, and I predict he lands in either Washington or with the Chargers. I don't expect any major Bears news today. They are going to be conducting their end-of-season interviews until 4 or 5 p.m. tonight. Basically, Ryan Poles is going to talk with all of the players on the roster, but one way or another, these players are going to have a chance to speak their mind. I think the earliest we hear news is probably Wednesday. Ryan Poles does have an interview scheduled for Wednesday or Thursday. I'll let you know once that time is firm. I have no idea right now if Matt Eberflus is safe or not. I've heard rumors suggesting that he's safe and that he's not safe. So right now, I just have no idea when it comes to Eberflus. I think he did do a good job of turning this defense around, but I don't know if it's enough. There were also reports in the last week or two that Ryan Poles did not have the final say when it came to hiring Matt Eberflus, so maybe that plays into it too. Maybe Poles wants to actually get his guy. I don't know. I would lean towards Eberflus staying and Getsy going, but there's also a chance they could clean house. I think when you look at the total body of work, I just can't make a case to bring Luke Getsy back. Let me know what you guys think. The national championship game is tonight, Washington versus Michigan. I'm definitely going to be watching that, rooting for the Huskies to pull off a big win. Also, Kyler Gordon should be at that game. Keep an eye out for him. If you're watching, remember to hit that like button for me. And until next time, bear down.
Swifty in the house!